It's a late afternoon, the sun casting long shadows across the park, bathing the trees in a golden light. Nathaniel Hayes, a 16-year-old black teen, sits on a bench by the fountain, absently scrolling through his phone. The park is quiet, save for the occasional chirp of birds and the laughter of children in the distance. It's a peaceful moment, the kind he's grown to cherish in a world that often feels heavy. But today, that moment is about to be shattered. From the corner of his eye, Nathaniel notices a woman walking briskly in his direction. Her blonde hair is tightly pulled back, her face pinched with concentration. She pauses just a few feet away from him, glances at him for a split second, then looks away. "I don't like the look of him," she mutters under her breath. Her words barely escape her lips, but Nathaniel hears them clearly. His pulse quickens. He's been through this before. The kind of scrutiny that comes with being in the wrong place with the wrong skin color. She doesn't know him. She doesn't know his story. But he can feel the weight of her gaze on him, like an accusation. And then, without warning, she pulls out her phone and dials 911. "Yes, I need the police. There's a black teenager sitting here in the park, acting suspicious. He's been here for over an hour. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's making me uncomfortable," she says, her voice steady but laced with fear. Fear of what? Nathaniel wonders. Fear of him sitting on a bench? His throat tightens. He never asked for this. He never wanted this. He just wanted a quiet moment to himself. But now, the world around him shifts. The calm is about to turn into something ugly. The sound of sirens grows louder in the distance. Drawing closer, Nathaniel stands up, his phone still in his hand, the screen a blur of notification alerts. What's going to happen now? The question hits him like a punch to the gut. He knows how this goes, how these situations escalate. A simple call, a simple accusation, and then the world spins out of control. He takes a slow breath, his chest tightening. He's done everything right. He hasn't caused any trouble. Yet somehow, here he is, about to be confronted by a stranger who sees him as nothing more than a threat. But there's one thing Nathaniel doesn't know yet. Someone is about to change the game entirely. Nathaniel doesn't fit the mold the world has carved for him. At least that's what he's always been told. He's not the angry, rebellious kid people assume black teens in his neighborhood are. He's not a problem. He's not a statistic. He's a dreamer, a young man who wants more than the expectations placed on him. He wants to be seen for who he is, smart, creative, driven. He wants to write, maybe even make movies one day. He wants to make a difference. But how can he do that when every move he makes is scrutinized? When a moment of peace can turn into a confrontation with the police just because of the color of his skin? Nathaniel sighs, running a hand through his hair. As the squad car pulls up to the curb, his chest tightens. He's been here before. But that doesn't make it any easier. The police car stops right in front of him. The officer inside doesn't hesitate. He steps out of the vehicle, his hand resting near his holster. The woman who called them stands to the side, her face full of judgment and barely disguised suspicion. "This is him," she says, her voice sharp, her fingers shaking slightly as she points directly at Nathaniel. "I don't know what he's doing here, but he's acting suspicious." The officer glances between Nathaniel and the woman, his eyes narrowing. He takes a step forward. "You got ID on you?" the officer asks. His voice is calm, but there's an underlying tension in his tone. Nathaniel swallows hard, trying to stay calm. He knows how to handle himself. But this moment feels different, more dangerous. He pulls his ID from his wallet and hands it over. The officer scans it quickly, then looks back at Nathaniel. There's something cold in his gaze, something that tells Nathaniel this isn't just a misunderstanding. It's a setup. "I'm going to need you to come with me," the officer says, reaching for Nathaniel's arm. Nathaniel doesn't move. His heart races, his hands trembling slightly. He wants to fight back, but he knows the rules. Don't resist. Don't give them a reason to escalate. But his mind is spinning. He's just a kid. He hasn't done anything wrong. Is this really happening? The officer's grip tightens on his arm, and Nathaniel can feel the weight of every gaze in the park. People are watching now, whispering, but no one is stepping in. The woman who made the call stands at a distance, her expression smug, as if she knows the outcome already. But she doesn't see what's about to happen next. Just as the officer starts to pull Nathaniel toward the car, a voice rings out. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" The officer freezes. The woman looks up, confused. Nathaniel's eyes widen as he sees the woman approaching. It's Adrienne Hayes, his mother. Her walk is measured, purposeful, and exudes a quiet yet undeniable authority. She's wearing a sharp suit, her FBI badge hanging from her waist. Her eyes lock onto the officer's, her gaze unwavering and sharp as a blade. The officer's grip loosens on Nathaniel's arm. He knows her. "Mom." Nathaniel breathes, disbelief flooding his chest. Adrienne turns to the woman, her voice low and controlled, but every word cuts through the air. "Ma'am, did you just call the police on my son?" The woman stammers, her eyes darting between Adrienne and the officer. I, I thought. You thought?" Adrienne's voice is icy now, every word tinged with authority. "You thought because he's black, he was up to something? Because he's sitting on a bench in broad daylight, he's automatically suspicious?" The officer's face pales, and the woman is visibly flustered. The power in the situation has shifted. It's no longer just a random encounter. It's personal. Adrienne steps closer, her eyes never leaving the woman's face. "Next time you feel the urge to call the cops on someone based on nothing but the color of their skin, remember this moment, because you've just made a mistake you won't forget." The woman's face flushes with embarrassment. She opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. There's nothing she can say to justify what she's done. For a moment, Nathaniel stands frozen, a wave of relief flooding through him. But then reality sets in. What if this hadn't been his mom? What if it had been another kid with no one to come to their rescue? He feels a pang of guilt, a gnawing frustration that the world so often expects him to prove his worthiness. Adrienne's phone buzzes in her pocket. She pulls it out, her eyes scanning the screen for a moment. Her expression hardens. "We're done here." She turns to the officer, who stands stiffly. "Take her report and leave. Now." With a last lingering glance at the woman, the officer nods and retreats toward his squad car. The woman, red-faced and defeated, watches in stunned silence. Nathaniel stands there, his heart racing. Adrienne wraps an arm around her son's shoulders, pulling him close. "You okay?" she asks softly, her voice no longer as sharp as before. It's a question that carries more weight than the world around them. Nathaniel nods, finally exhaling. "Yeah, thanks, Mom." As they walk back to their car, Nathaniel can't help but feel the shift. This wasn't just a moment of protection. It was a moment of revelation. His mother wasn't just his protector. She was a force of change, a reminder that no one should have to fight alone. "Next time, we stay away from that park." "Okay," Adrienne says with a smile as the two of them climb into the car. Nathaniel chuckles softly. "Deal." What if Nathaniel hadn't had his mother there to stand up for him? What if the officer hadn't recognized her? Or worse, what if the situation had escalated further? Imagine a world where this innocent moment in the park could have ended in a devastatingly different way. How many more times are we going to let people like Nathaniel face these kinds of injustices? How many more times will fear and prejudice dictate how people are treated simply because of the color of their skin? It could have been anyone. It could have been you. What would you have done if you were in Nathaniel's shoes? Or in his mother's? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share how this story made you feel. Do you believe we can change the narrative? If this story struck a chord with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the powerful stories that need to be told. Because change starts with awareness. And together we can amplify these important conversations. Let's keep this discussion going.